We're going to make sure Professor Waema presents the master plan. And actually what we're saying is that if you don't listen, don't ask later, because everything we do will be managed or programmed through this document. So without further ado, let me invite Professor Waema, who is the chair of the task team which worked on this national ICT master plan, and he'll take it up from there. Then after the presentation, we'll agree on the way forward. Thank you. Karibu team.
I will present the ICT master plan, which we have been compiling the last couple of months. The Cabinet Secretary appointed us, I think it was October last year, to develop the ICT master plan. And we have been working at it. We have presented to several stakeholder workshops, or in several stakeholder workshops. And now we want to present it to you and launch it immediately after this. We developed a vision and guiding principles for the master plan, as well as a theme. And this vision had to be aligned to Vision 2030. And we have captured Vision 2030 there. And we have also captured the theme, the overall theme of the second medium-term plan for the vision, which is there, and also the ICT theme. ICT, this in the second MTP, was part of the foundation. And therefore, in aligning the vision for the master plan with the vision of Vision 2030, we said that we want Kenya as a regional ICT hub and a globally competitive digital economy. The word digital is very critical. But we also thought it is important to have a theme. And we chose towards a digital Kenya. And we believe that this theme will also help us to realize the vision for this master plan. We also came up with guiding principles. The guiding principles are the principles that will guide the implementation of the master plan. And partnership is one of the important ones. Partnership with private sector, government partnering with private sector, national government partnering with the county governments, partnering with academia, and so many other stakeholders. Yeah? Equity, not discrimination in conformity with the Constitution, technology neutrality. We don't want to be locked to proprietary systems from vendors. Protection of the environment and conservation. The whole idea of green IT and electronic waste, trying to avoid electronic waste at the end of the day. Good governance in line with the Constitution, and incentivizing particularly the private sector to provide solutions to government. This was very important from the private sector participation. So then the next important thing is the master plan, the various bits of the master plan. The overall vision is given there at the top of the house. So we have a house representing what we want to achieve. And in the house, below the black line is the foundation. That is where we have put concreted this foundation below it. And the foundation, we have three foundations. One is integrated ICT infrastructure, very, very important. Then integrated information infrastructure, the kind of infrastructure that Mwende was talking about earlier in the morning. And then ICT human capital and workforce, because we can't do anything without the right kind of people with the right kind of skills. But then we have three pillars. The blue ones are the pillars. We have one is the e-government services. At the end of the day, we must provide services digitally as government. But outside government, in the private sector, we want ICT to be the driver of industry, particularly the key economic sectors that are captured in Vision 2030. And then the final pillar is developing ICT businesses. We want to develop ICT as a sector and create businesses that are ICT businesses. So we believe with those three foundations at the bottom and the three pillars, we can be able to achieve that vision. Now, I'll give you a snapshot of the foundations and the pillars. And the way we have organized them is we give objectives, the overall objective, the flagship projects, and what we expect to achieve at the end of the day. But if you read the document, it contains more information. For each objective, we develop strategies and key actions that have to be done. But for purposes of this presentation, I will only present the objectives, projects, and the outcomes. For the ICT infrastructure, the objective there is to support provision of reliable, secure, and affordable connectivity across the whole country. Yeah? And the projects that we believe are critical is rolling out affordable and quality broadband infrastructure to underserved areas. The kind of issues that were being discussed in the plenary session that we had here on broadband connectivity. Second one is, and that is largely be done by the private sector with the right with facilitation by the regulatory framework will have to be right for them to be able to do that. But inside government, we believe that it's important to roll out quality and secure ICT infrastructure to national and county government offices, plus hotspots in public spaces, but at the same time maximizing the sharing of infrastructure, which is critical, sharing infrastructure in government, like data centers and things like those. And we also thought it is important to create community networks. And we choose 2 community networks, the schools and the hospitals or health centers. And we'll be talking about other things that are related to those 2. Because we believe if we extend infrastructure to schools, which cover most areas in our country, and hospitals and health centers, we'll have covered most of the country. The key outcomes are given there, 3 of them. One is coverage. We want to achieve increased coverage of the country by national broadband. And we have basically adopted the targets that are in the broadband strategy, in the national broadband strategy, where we are talking about 35% household penetration by 2017. At the moment, we are less than 10%. I heard Walubengo talking about 1%, but the figures I've seen are slightly bigger than that. 100% penetration in schools and health centers. But also we want quality broadband. Yeah, we on issues of availability, very high availability, high reliability, and secure broadband. And finally, affordable broadband. Affordability, we haven't come up with a measure for affordability. The Broadband Commission says that broadband is affordable if you spend less than 2.5% of your disposable income. Yeah? We haven't defined it, but we believe that we should define it and benchmark with the countries in the middle income. And we believe by rolling out this infrastructure, we will have an additional 2.5% contribution to GDP. There is a way we have come up with that 2.5%, which I won't go into details. If we look at, we chose a number of countries that we need to compare ourselves with. And since Kenya wants to become a middle-income country, the middle-income countries are divided into 2 bands. There is the lower middle income, and there is the upper middle income. Yeah? The Vision 2030 is not very clear which one we want to get into. I suspect it's the lower one. I suspect. So we chose 2 countries which are in the lower middle income. That is Ghana and Senegal, which recently entered. They were with us in low income, which recently entered into the lower middle income. And then we chose 2 countries which are in the upper middle income, which are large countries. We are not looking at small islands like Mauritius and so on and so forth. Yeah? And we chose South Africa and Brazil. And then we also chose, for comparison purposes, a country which is in the high income, and we chose Portugal. And therefore, for all the areas we will be comparing with those countries, I read some in the newspaper yesterday that Kenya by September will be in the lower middle income. This is what I saw yesterday. If anybody read, hopefully we'll be there before the end of the year, several years before Vision 2030, before the year 2030. So if you look at infrastructure, which looks at all these penetration issues of internet, fixed telephone, mobile subscribers, fixed internet subscriptions, fixed broadband facilities, and so on and so forth, and we compare ourselves with the various countries, assuming that we can take this index as a proxy for ICT infrastructure, then we find that Kenya compares fairly well with the low mid-income countries in Ghana and Senegal, but probably we need to do much more to get to the upper middle income countries, which have a slightly higher index. Yeah. Then we move to the integrated information infrastructure. This fortunately has been covered early in the morning, but there are two objectives: to facilitate efficient and effective government services, because the information infrastructure basically drives provision of government services. But we also want to enhance data access and protection of public data and information. And the flagship projects, already Mwende had talked about them, is creating all those data repositories, national data repositories. One for establishments, these are companies, societies, and so on and so forth. Yeah? Starting with the company registry database. Yeah? And the second one is a repository for persons registration, which is what she was talking about earlier. Yeah? Starting with that as part of the persons data hub. This is where you are tracking somebody from the time they were born to the time they are dead. Yeah? And then finally, one on assets. Yeah? Oh no, the one on land and the other one on assets. Yeah? Whether we are talking about vehicles, buildings, livestock, whatever it is. Yeah? So we need to set up those data repositories, national data repositories, and start with a certain particular area and then move on building that infrastructure. And the key outcomes are three. We want, we will get enhanced public data integrity. At the moment, as you are told by Mwende, this data is in government, exists in silos, is not very accurate, and so on and so forth. Improved transparency and accountability. This is one of the important things. And then finally, we believe that by putting up these integrated data repositories or databases, we will have improved Kenya's e-government ranking, yeah, which is very important. And we want that to move by at least 15 points. And I will show you in the next, later on, how we do that. This is a diagram that illustrates how we'll do it. We'll pick data. If you look at the most left side here, data will come from ministries, from counties, from departments, from agencies of government, and it will go through some interface there which has got standards, policies, and then we'll go through a process of profiling that data, proofing that data so that we improve its quality and so on and so forth, and create those data repositories there. Yeah? Those data repositories can then be accessed by businesses, by investors, by citizens, and so on and so forth, through a number of channels, whether it is mobile phones, internet, or whatever it is. Yeah? And that will be through some middleware, which is a soft infrastructure, which will then access the applications. The applications will be sitting somewhere there, and the data hubs will be sitting there. But the interesting thing is that then you can provide information and services to all these stakeholders through various channels. But at the same time, you can have businesses creating third-party applications based on the data that is sitting down there. Yeah, the kind of innovations that somebody was talking about in the morning. So we are creating businesses with the data. And the open data people initiative in government, they mentioned that several people had already created businesses based on the open data platform that the government has already launched. So from the data that we have, we can be able to create, to make some of that data available through an open data platform. And we can also sell some of the data to some of these people, some of the data which is sellable. I am sure there are many people who would wish to invest in the country and would wish to access some of that data. And we can sell some of that data. So this is the concept of citizen-centric, one-stop, non-stop concept that we were discussing. The third foundation is one of human capital and workforce. And basically here we want to develop a critical mass of local high-end ICT skills. At the moment, we estimate that we produce about 2,000 or thereabouts ICT graduates from our universities. And at that level of basic skills, there is no problem. The problem is people who have deep skills who can be able to do very challenging jobs in engineering, in computer science, and so on and so forth. So that is what we are lacking. And I know that the private sector has been complaining that the universities, and I'm from our university, that we are not producing people who have the requisite skills to drive what they are trying to do in industry. But at the same time, the other objective is to develop ICT-ready workforce. The ordinary person, whether they are accountant or whoever they are, they can be able to work effectively with ICT. The third objective is increased digital literacy of citizens. This is also another objective that is also in the broadband strategy. And finally, we see ICTA, ICT Authority, as the main executing agency for the master plan. And therefore, we decided to create an objective to strengthen its capacity so that they can be able to implement this master plan. The flagship projects, we have three flagship projects. One is to establish 5 centers of excellence, COEs, 5 centers of excellence in education and training, to be able to produce the high-end talent that we are looking for in electrical engineering, computer science, information systems, and so on and so forth. And we felt that some of those centers could also be based in Concert Technocity. And that is why you see it is a bullet below that one, because we need to be able to attract quality universities in Concert to be able to offer this ICT. Of course, they will offer other programs, whether in nanotechnology or whatever it is, but in our case, we are concerned about ICT programs. Yeah? We also felt another project that is important is financing a 1 to 2 year intensive structural training or structured training and attachment program with the involvement of the private sector and some other perhaps global organizations where we can be able to attach people for 1 to 2 years and they go through a structured program. And we should be able to produce about 500 graduates. If you talk to a lot of you people from private sector, you say you import some of the deep skills that are required from abroad, yeah? And we want to create these people in-house in our country. And they will be useful not only for our country, but also for the region. Finally, the other flagship project is to do with training of trainers in ICTs, and also training of the public through offering programs that are online. Yeah? People can be able to follow these programs online for continuous training of the public as well as training of trainers. If we do those things, then what will we achieve? We'll achieve availability of sustainable local high-end ICT skills. This is what we are trying to achieve. But we also want to achieve adequacy of ICT-ready workforce. We need to have people in all areas, in all sectors, that are ICT trained and can be able to use ICT in their workplace. We also wanted to increase digital literacy in adult citizens. I know the broadband strategy talks about 100%. We felt 100% was too much. Getting almost every adult citizen being able to being digitally literate and we felt that might not be achievable. What probably is achievable is 50% increase in digital public literacy. Then we are finished with the foundations. I will go to the three very quickly, to the three pillars. The first one is e-government services. And the objective is to offer consistent, integrated e-government citizen-centric services. You were told by Mwende earlier in the morning that government bodies work in silos, and therefore integration is a big challenge. Yeah? And the flagship projects, we have 4 of them, basically is to use the information infrastructure that we created in the foundation and create now end-to-end systems, right from collection of data to offering services to citizens and businesses. And therefore, we are talking about universal single registration system that Mwende was talking about. That is the first one. And actually what is happening is they picked, because we are working closely with them when they were formed, and we are sharing documents, and they picked this as one of the projects to run away with. Yeah? So this project they are implementing is part of the master plan. The other one is company registration system as part of the establishments. And all these systems, there will be Huduma services, the services that we provide to citizens, whether through the mobile phone or whether through centers like what is happening at the moment. The third one is National Land Information System. That is relying on the spatial data infrastructure that was created by the information infrastructure earlier. And finally, there is this, all these things cannot be done if the legal and regulatory framework is not right. Yeah? Issues of privacy, issues of security, and so on and so forth. And therefore, although it doesn't fit here, this is the best place we could find a place for it, creating that conducive legal and regulatory framework. And we felt that if we do this, we will achieve those 3 outcomes, that 50% of adults can be able to access at least one electronic service. Yeah? Secondly, 8 out of every 10 users are satisfied, because satisfaction with government services is an important thing. Yeah? You can be accessing government services, but you might not be very satisfied. So we feel maybe that's one you'll have to do through a survey of some sort. And this is no more in this business. And we feel by rolling out those end-to-end systems, we will have improved e-government ranking and the ease of doing business. The ease of doing business, particularly with the company registration. A lot of people are frustrated by the steps they have to go through in registering businesses in Kenya. Yeah? So we feel that by implementing those projects, we'll improve e-government ranking. It's something that is done every 2 years by the UN, and the ease of doing business, which the World Bank does almost every year. And we want to move climb by 15 places. If I show you this is the e-government ranking for 3 years, 2008, 2010, and 2012. And you can see that although Kenya seems to be doing relatively better than the countries in the lower middle income. Yeah? The higher the bar, the worse off you are. Yeah? The higher the bar, because it means you are like, for example, Ghana is 145 out of normally around 160 something countries. Yeah? And it's actually, in terms of e-government, we seem to be very close to some of the countries in the upper middle income, like South Africa, not too far, about 18 spaces. There are another 18 countries in between. Yeah, so we have a long way to go before we get there. If you look at the ease of doing business, which is also for 3 years, 2012 to 2014, we see that we are not doing very well. We are not doing very well. Our bars are very, very tall, which means we are not doing very well. Ghana seems to be doing very well, seems to be doing much better than us. And I think, I believe Rwanda in the region is also doing very well. Of course, ICT is part of the contribution towards the ease of doing business. It's not the only factor. there are very many other factors. Yeah. So those are some of the indicators we would be tracking in order to check whether we are making a difference. The second pillar is ICT as a driver of industry. As I mentioned earlier, this is the case where we are automating some of the processes of in the value chains of various economic sectors, particularly the ones in Vision 2030. And we chose a few sectors that are critical, like agriculture. We chose a number of them, trade, and so on and so forth. And these are the projects that we feel are important. Security, we were discussing security in the morning. Integrated security, intelligence, and surveillance system. Yeah? When they mentioned this as an offshoot from the person's registry system that they are developing. Yeah? But it is important that this is done. And if you read both the Vision 2030, second MTP, and the Jubilee Manifesto, they talk about police stations and connecting all the police stations. And that system will be able to make sure that happens. The National Payment Gateway, the National Electronic Single Window System, these are all projects that have started, were started or initiated in the recent past. National Agricultural Commodity Exchange. This is something that we have not done anything about, and we believe this will be critical for the agriculture sector, and we believe it will improve the efficiency and empower the farmers at the end of the day. And then the school laptop project. But we said here we are talking about not only the gadgets, but we are talking about computerizing the integration of ICT in learning and teaching, but at the same time also automating the various educational, administrative, as well as academic processes in schools and educational institutions. And we believe, although it is very difficult to measure the contribution of ICT in some of these sectors, because ICT basically acts as an enabler. And it's very indirect, very difficult to measure, but we believe that there will be an additional 1.5% contribution to GDP. Finally, developing ICT businesses is the final one. And we believe that three objectives. One is the ministry needs to work with the relevant ministries, like the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology is very critical. Ministry of Industrialization is very critical to promote ICT innovations and their commercialization. As a country, we have been very good in creating innovations, particularly ICT innovations, but taking them that further to commercial products has been a huge challenge. The second objective is to grow the number of IT-enabled services companies and the range of the services they provide. Kenya, in the first MTP, in Vision 2030, focused on BPO, which did not work out very well. Yeah? And there has been a shift in the ministry, and the shift is moving to the higher value services in outsourcing. And these are the IT-enabled services. And this is where Kenya should really play a part. Yeah? And the third objective is grow and monitor the local ICT industry. And we have only two flagship projects there. One in concert to have a science and technology park. And I believe this is an IT-enabled services center in concert technology city. But this should not be sitting alone. They should create an innovation hub, an innovation ecosystem, together with other innovation hubs, wherever they are located in universities and other centers. Yeah? And the second project is a program to support commercialization of ICT innovations. And with this, we believe that there will be all these outcomes. Yeah? At the end of the day, although we have not shown it here, the total contribution, we believe the total contribution to GDP with all these projects and all these foundations and pillars, we believe we'll have a total of 8% contribution to GDP at the end of the day. I know other figures have been floated around, but we have a very good justification for 80%. I know other people are talking about 5% by 2017/18, but we believe it is feasible to have 80% contribution to GDP, and the jobs and all these other things that are inside there. Finally, some issues, before those issues, there is these graphs about, charts about global innovation index and ranking. And I chose the ranking and the capacity for innovation, which is a sub-index of global innovation index. And if you look at the global innovation index, Kenya is not doing very well. We have been sliding, our bars have been increasing as the years, which means we have not been doing very well there in terms of global innovation index. But on the capacity for innovation, we seem to be doing very well. You can see our bars are very low, which means we seem to be doing very well. Actually, much better than all these countries in the lower middle income, Ghana and Senegal. Almost at the same level as South Africa. Yeah. So we seem to have capacity to innovate, but on the global innovation index, we seem not to be doing very well. Yeah? And that is food for thought. Finally, there are a number of implementation issues that I want to mention. One is on financing. Most of these were mentioned in the morning, except maybe the first one, where it is important to consolidate ICT budgets from the various ministries so that we can be able to fund the flagship projects. Obviously, the ministries will maintain their own budgets on ICT to do specific things that we have thought through in the master plan. And ICTA within the Ministry of ICT will do other things that are cross-cutting. This was mentioned in the morning, that we need to increase ICT budget from the current almost 0.3% of the total national budget to 5% of the national budget, as well as the county budgets. I'm told that when this master plan was presented to the county executives on Sunday, they mentioned that it would be nice that this becomes policy, because a lot of counties are not spending much on ICT, yeah? And they are not allocating much money on ICT, and therefore it is very important. The Universal Service Fund was mentioned in the morning with respect to broadband strategy, and we adopt that we should use some of that money to provide some of the infrastructure and other things. Equalization Fund, which is 0.5%, to fund some ICT projects. Again, I'm told when this was presented to the county executives, they mentioned that this money will be controlled by politicians. It is unlikely that it will ever go to ICT. But there you are. 2% of the National Research Fund. This was money that was committed by the Science, Technology, Innovation Act, that the country will dedicate 2% of GDP to financing research and development. And we believe we can tap into this money to finance our ICT innovations. The private sector, we believe, can also participate in funding some of these projects through either incentives or PPP arrangements to fund some of the projects. Development partners, of course, we still rely quite a bit on development partners, but not on their priorities, on our priorities. Yeah? We will tell them, these are the only projects we have. If you are interested in some sexy project, we are not interested. You can only fund these ones of ours. Getting money from the capital markets, like putting out an ICT infrastructure bond, is something that was also mentioned in the broadband strategy, and we believe it is important that we look into this. Yeah? And one of the biggest challenges is funding of ICT innovations by our small and medium enterprises. And we believe if we can have a small business administration agency to provide a government guarantee to commercial banks for those SMEs that are interested in financing their commercialization of their innovations, we believe it will be a very useful thing to achieve the objectives of this. Monitoring and evaluation is very important. And in this master plan, we have proposed that ICT becomes a sector in its own right, a standalone sector. At the moment, it gets mixed up with storage and transport. Yeah? We have proposed ICT indicators in line with other countries that have adopted this strategy. And we believe by being able to monitor the ICT sector is very important. So we say data collection for monitoring and evaluation of the ICT sector is very important. And one of the strategies is to enhance the capacity of the National Bureau of Statistics to collect the necessary data. And we have given the ICT indicators in one of the annexes. Yeah? But at the same time, we should pool resources, because I know CCK, which is CAK now, is in the process and discussing collecting data on ICT indicators. And actually, I had a discussion with them before coming here. And it is possible that next year they will be collecting some data, 2014, 2015, on ICT indicators, and they're ready to consider the ICT indicators that we have given. So resources that are within ICTA, resources that are within CCK should be pulled together to support Kenya National Bureau of Statistics to collect these very, very important demand data. A lot of times we have a lot of supply data. CCK has got a lot of supply data, which is provided by operators. They are obligated by their license conditions to provide this information. But we don't have demand data from the users. Data analysis, this is where the biggest problem is with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. They collect a lot of baseline information from households. They hardly ever collect information on individuals and businesses. Now, if you look at the annex that we have given ICT indicators, we are collecting data on individuals, of course on the core indicators that are supply-oriented, on businesses, on schools, on hospitals, and government. Very, very critical to collect that set of data. But the biggest problem is analyzing that data. Yeah? So we are saying that analyzing this data is very important. So the ministry needs to build this capacity. ICTA needs to build this capacity to analyze that data. And if it is necessary to create an observatory, an ICT observatory, we are recommending that there is one. It is necessary, you can put this in one of the institutions of higher learning or in a research center where skills can be provided to analyze this data and provide this data across several sectors, so that they can be used to inform policy decisions, they can be used to inform strategies of government, and so on and so forth. Yeah? So we should avail this information on an open data platform, which can be accessed by Kenyans, by investors, by businesses, and they can form their business decisions. And finally, we have some proposal on governance. Very, very important. That based on what we have learned from other countries, initiatives, particularly large ICT projects like what Mwende is talking about earlier in the morning, need to be driven from the highest office in the country, either the president or the prime minister, as the case may be. And therefore, we adopted that and said some of these very huge projects need to be championed by the president. And therefore, we created an oversight committee that will be chaired by His Excellency the President. ICT Ministry or ICTA will be the secretary of such a committee through the Cabinet Secretary. But in that committee, we'll have representation of the private sector and representation of academia, and of course, of other government agencies that are critical, ministries that are critical. Their role is to monitor the status of implementation of these projects. When there's task force, they have to report to the president on a very regular basis. Yeah? And also resolves interministerial challenges. There are very many anticipated interministerial challenges. Data people tend to own the data, and getting the data away from them is a challenge. And therefore, we feel the highest office can be able to sort out all those issues. Below there, when we're implementing a particular project, we say we should create interministerial project steering committees, which are chaired by the cabinet secretary who is in charge of the ministry that owns the project. So if you're implementing a system on persons, that should be the Ministry of Interior, the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Ministry of Interior, should be able to chair the implementation steering committee. If you are implementing one education, like the laptop, the Cabinet Secretary in charge of education should be able to chair that. But it has a representation of other ministries, yeah? Counties as well. Very important if whatever you are implementing will touch on counties and the agencies of government. It appoints the project manager. This steering committee appoints the project manager and does monitoring and evaluation of the project, and of course it reports to the oversight committee chaired by the president. Very, very important that we do it this way. Another governance issue is the one of National Government Forum, where we have the ICTA CEO as the National Government CIO, sits with the CIOs from the other ministries, yeah, and they create another forum for discussing issues about ICT in government, yeah, very, very important. Then there is the county forum. The county forum is very critical. We need to strengthen what already exists. I know the county executives who are here have been participating in these forums, but we need to strengthen it, which is normally chaired by ICTA, and with the ICT county executives. We need to strengthen this. And we basically need to use that forum for coordination of ICT projects that are cut across counties, like the implementation of IFMIS, for example. Yeah, very, very important. Then alignment. This is very important. This master plan that we are launching this afternoon needs to be used to be cascaded down the line. The Ministry of ICT needs to create its own strategic plan. I have seen a draft that is aligned to this master plan. ICTA needs to create an ICT strategic plan or an ICT strategy that is aligned to this master plan. County governments need to create their own master plans that are aligned to this master plan. Other agencies of government need to create their own strategies aligned to this. That is the only way we will achieve the vision that we want to achieve. Yeah? So this is very important. This alignment is very important. And this is the structure that we are talking about, having that oversight committee, the interministerial project steering committee, and then ICTA sitting there and interacting with the various ministries as well as counties or county governments. Yeah? And we have given the relationships and what they are relating for in that chart. And finally, you can see from there, if you look at the project life cycle stages there, they are all there from project conception to project closure. You see the oversight committee chaired by the president only gets involved in two stages. One is project initiation there, and the other one is monitoring and evaluation. They just want to know the status. Is it going right? Is it going according to what we had planned? Yeah? But the interministerial steering committee gets involved largely in project execution, yeah, and monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation here and reporting to this other committee here, yeah. And of course, they're the ones who will close the project at the end. ICTA, through the project management office, will get involved in almost all the stages, yeah. Similarly, the ministry or department or agency that is in charge or that owns the project will get involved in all the stages, including the favorite one of procurement.
Are we keeping tab on the costs that are being saved in terms of digital migration? Is there a mechanism to be able to say, by moving this amount of people towards digital services, we have been able to save the economy and them this amount of money? And this is borrowing from what the UK government is doing in their digital transition. Everything has been costed in terms of what people save to travel, what people save in terms of phone calls and what have you.
There was much on the issue of, there's much that was said about the integration of databases, integration of registration of people, registration of companies. I mean, in this master plan, can we have one thing from the initial setup, that you have one depository of data instead of having different databases?
The issue of standards, and when I talk about standards, I mean like the fiber to the home. It's a global trend, and if we have to benefit from the successful cases, I think it's only fair that we consider the issue of standards application across the entire model. Number two, IPv6 migration. I'm happy about the presentation so far, about the whole broadband issue, and the issue of IPv6, that is Internet Protocol version 6, migration from the current one. I think some light on that one will also do good. And lastly, the issue of data center. What model is best applicable for us? Do we go microdata? Do we go infrastructure sharing? And a bit of some light on that one.
The cost being saved in digital migration, two more. Yes, the cost will be done at project level. What we did was to come up with the projects, but we didn't go to the nitty-gritty details of the cost savings. That will be done as part of the projects that will be going into implementation. And I'm sure Mwende and our task force have already looked at what are the cost savings. You saw the economic savings from the benefits she was showing in the morning. So at the project level, this is where it will be costed. Karema from Lamu, integration. Yes, integration will take place. You think we are having very many data hubs, but these data hubs, as Mwende mentioned in the morning, they are interconnected. You remember the model that she had? These data hubs are interconnected because the people who own companies are owned by people. Yeah? So the establishment data hub will be connected to the data hub on persons. Yeah? And so on and so forth. So those data repositories will be interconnected. Yeah? Very, very important. Standards, this is part of the big mandate for ICTA. ICTA will develop most of the standards, of course, with involvement of industry. Maybe you can comment on IPv6?
Yeah, I think the IPv6 is straightforward because we have KENIC and TESPOC and the other operators who've been working on this. And within the master plan, we actually capture it under appropriate technologies because it's going to be a dynamic thing as we move forward. So I think you should not worry. There is already a task force working on IPv6 in this country to make sure we have appropriate technologies. At this juncture, let me invite our Permanent Secretary, Mr. Joseph Tiampati, and the Chair of the ICTA Board, Honorable Edwin Yinda, so that we can actually launch this master plan and start work on implementation has already started, and we can start interacting with the private sector to realize it. So, karibu.
I hope now it will load quickly. Yeah, this is the master plan. Yeah, so can we, I don't know, you are supposed to launch it, I don't know, with some words. Gentlemen, let's hold it together. Let's hold it together and show the. Yes.
The ICT master plan officially launched.